Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, it's nice to meet you. Today I just want to answer a few questions that everyone keeps asking us about cochlear implants, and they're the most frequent ones, so the top questions that everyone keeps asking us. But I'm gonna have to take you guys around with me because I'm pretty busy today, but I wanted to get this film up to you guys. So the first question is the surgery risky? So generally with any anesthetic, yes, there is a risk in the surgery, but with the cochlear implants, there is no risk at all. So most patients, they usually stay in for like 1 day and then they get to go home just for observation. Carlson had to stay in for the night and the day, obviously because he was only 1 year old, and they had to make sure all his vitals were okay. So this next question is actually very common. A lot of people have actually asked us this question, generally because Coulson is the first one in our entire family from both sides to be deaf and have cochlear implants. So the question is if they're experimental. So no, they're not experimental. They've been around since the 1970s and they've just developed the technology. They've increased the technology and they've made it better. Obviously with the technology these days, they're just trying to make the devices smaller on the outside, but the general device on the inside is always the same. Another question that we keep getting asked is whether the cochlear implants are going to restore his normal hearing. So no, it's not a cure, it's just there to help him hear. It's a communication tool and it simulates normal hearing. So obviously we have to take it to speech therapy and listening therapy just so that he can hear the speech properly and he's able to speak as well as normal as any other person. So this question I actually find very interesting is people ask us if he will need more surgery when new technology comes out. So when you go for the surgery, they obviously have to join your skull and they have to put the array in the cochlea, which is a very long process. It takes 6 hours to do the surgery or 8 hours to do the surgery. So the short answer to this is no. So when the cochlear companies come out with a new technology, they always have the inner piece underneath the skull always the same. So that's just a communication tool that goes to the cochlea, that goes into the brain. The only thing that they will be upgrading and that you'll need to be upgrading is the outside piece, which is the processor. But the inside piece, you will never have to do surgery unless there's a situation with the inside piece, which is very uncommon. So another question about the technology with the cochlear implants is, should I wait for the newest technology to come out for the cochlear implants? So no one would ever recommend waiting for the latest technology because it takes 3 years. Well, the company that Coulson's with, every 3 years they release new processors for the cochlear implants. So if you don't get it within the first year, that means you have to wait 2 years for the new technologies to come out. You will never have to wait for the new technologies to come out. You just choose a processor that you feel comfortable with, and then they will always be updating the technology within that processor. They never have to do any mapping or anything on the inside. It's always on the outside. So no, you don't have to wait for new technology to come out. And generally, why would you even wait if you could have your hearing back in like a month's time instead of 3 years? But yeah, no, you don't have to wait. So this next question I actually asked myself as well, because obviously my son was very young and he was still growing, and you know, bones move and they grow and so on and so forth. So the question is, would he outgrow the technology, would he outgrow the internal piece, and would he need to go for an operation for a new one? So the very short answer to this, and thank God, is no. You wouldn't have to go for a new surgery, and they don't actually outgrow it. By the time you are 2 years old, your skull and not your skull, but your ear is fully developed. So you don't need to go and get a new internal piece done at a certain age. Thank God, because honestly, going through the 2 surgeries twice was more than enough for me, and I don't think I could do it again. This question is very interesting, and only because there's a lot of crowds and a lot of people. So the question is, will people with cochlear implants identify environmental noises as well as speech? So yes, they do. After a lot of training and a lot of speech therapy, they are able to identify the difference between the two as well as the both. So Coulson's one, currently you can actually set it. His doesn't pick up the environmental noises. So the background noises his cochlear implants don't pick up, because currently we're just trying to develop his speech. But when he's old enough and he has a speech, then we are able to switch the environmental noises on. He can hear birds, he can hear the planes, he can hear anything that he wants as the plane above me. But yes, they can recognize environmental speeches as well as normal speeches. I actually love this last question. So a lot of people have asked us very often whether Coulson can play sports or swim or whatever. So yes, they can do any of that stuff, but obviously skydiving and scuba diving is not recommended because of the pressure within the ears. But when he swims, he can either take the implant off, the processor off, or he can go and get the aqua kit, which is just like a condom that goes over the processor. I don't know, I'll post it here so you guys can see. But yes, he can generally do any sports. Rugby he can do, he'll just have to take the processor off, or he'll just have to wear protective helmets around the processor. But I think that would be very uncomfortable because it goes behind the ear. So if he does get hit on the ear, then I think it'll be very sore. But obviously whatever sport he decides to do, we will always make a plan, whether we need to get extra pieces for his processor or whether he needs to learn how to do it without hearing. But yes, they can play sports and swim and do anything else, just not scuba diving and not skydiving, only because of the pressure. So those are the most asked questions that we have about Coulson's cochlear implants. If you guys have any more questions, you're more than welcome to pop a comment down below and I'll answer them in the next video that I make.